Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. If you're somebody that owns a company, a business, or you have a team that you work with, how strong are they in terms of their direction? Do you have a strong team? Let's talk about the strength and the productivity and the positivity that all comes along with that. She's a leadership coach and helps many, many people navigate those waters all the time. She's back with us. Nadine Zeinoun is back on the program. Hey, Nadine, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. I'm intrigued about what we're going to talk about today.
Mhm.
When we talk about the strength of the culture,
Mhm.
is that reinforcing the strength of the people within? And by that, I mean, are you, as a leader, let's say, are you talking to your team and finding their strengths and pointing them out? Is that what we're going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. Because, Steve, some time ago and not too far away, it used to be thought that, the best way to develop people is to focus on their weaknesses. So all performance reviews, any discussion a manager with their people, they would pinpoint the weaknesses that they have, and they would try to put a lot of effort into developing these weaknesses. However, we now know that when you focus on people's strengths, the results are much better than when you actually focus on their weaknesses. So that's why there is now more interest in terms of focusing on how to build cultures that focus on strengths rather than focus on weaknesses of people.
I can't imagine, and maybe it's my mentality,
Mhm.
of focusing on the weaknesses of people when you want to get the most out of them. I mean, talk about, the yearly review. Boy, I can't wait to go into that meeting, to hear all the things that you don't do well, as opposed to taking the positive stuff and building upon that. Let's say somebody has amazing organization skills
Mhm.
within your culture, your business. Pick them for a certain task, and yeah, you got that. We're going to use you for that. You're fantastic. The rest, yeah, not so much. We're all good. Um, I can't believe that's a thing where businesses
Yeah.
would focus on the
Yeah,
weakness.
absolutely. And the thing is that your strengths come to you naturally. So you use your strength without you noticing. So it's not like you're going to put so much effort into
Mm.
that. So they come off much more easily. When you use them, you perform better, and the outcome is much better. And you are happy because research shows that when people utilize their strengths, they are much more engaged, they have more positive emotion, and they feel there is more meaning to whatever they do. And if you remember from last time, we said that positive emotion, engagement, and meaning are key for well-being at work. So it comes off naturally when you are using your strength. You gain all these just by using your strengths.
When that comes easy, my belief is when those things come easy,
Mhm.
you are doing what you should be doing. You
Yeah,
found your purpose. Whatever is inside of you is now aligned with what's outside of you, the universe, your situation. When it comes easy, it's almost like people think that, hey, when they say that didn't feel like work. I don't know. I'm just doing my thing. Right.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why, we say that, like, the first thing we say to organizations and to leaders, let your team know their strengths. And everyone tells me, what do you mean? Do you think that people don't know their strengths? And actually, well, no, they don't.
Hmm.
And you know why? Because they come off so easily that we take them for granted. We're not aware that this is a strength we're actually using. Let's take a very you know easy common example. Let's say one of my top strengths is honesty. Okay, so when I am being honest, I don't notice that this is actually a strength that I have. I think that everyone is like that. I think that this is something that comes natural to every human being. And why? It's because it comes so naturally, and it is so much imprinted in me that I'm not conscious of when I'm using it. So it's not like I do it on purpose. Oh, I'm going to use my honesty now. No, I just do it because it comes off naturally. So we say that it's
Hmm.
not in our conscious mind, it's in our unconscious mind, which works automatically. So and that's why things that work automatically, you're not very much aware of, like your breathing. You're not aware that you're breathing. So when you put awareness, when a leader notices people's strengths or gives them tools to know their strengths, the leader is putting the people's awareness on their strengths. So they're becoming consciously aware of how special they are and the special talents that they have and the special skills that they have. And this makes it much more enjoyable because people will feel more confident. They will feel like, they are resilient. They can use these strengths in times that are difficult and when they face
Hmm.
challenges. And they become much more productive and engaged at work. And this is very important, of course, engagement.
I would never think that a strength is honesty. I would think that's more of a moral value.
Mhm.
So it's interesting looking at that. And yeah, we know that everybody's not honest, unfortunately. We like to assume that they are. Do you think, Nadine, that we don't realize our strengths because our culture is in such where we need to keep working hard, got to keep working hard to succeed. So some of those things that may not be your strengths, you just keep pushing harder, because that's what we're supposed to be doing to succeed. Whereby if you take a look at your strengths, that was too easy. I'm not even trying. I'm making money, or I'm doing
Yeah.
well. Can't be that easy. Do you think that's a mentality with many of us?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Because, what you were saying. Let's take a very easy, like example again. When did you leave a meeting, for example, and not sit and dissect what went wrong with that meeting and where you could have done better? This is the mentality that we have grown to
Yeah.
adopt. Okay, so we have
Yeah.
adopted that mentality of always looking for, we think that this is good for our development. Surely I'm not saying that we're going to ignore our weaknesses. It's important to know, the areas that
Sure.
you're not too good at, and maybe it's important to develop them to a certain extent. But you have to accept that making these, a strength it takes a lot of effort. And you don't really need to do that, because if you know what your strengths are, sometimes focusing on your strength will pull that one up. So I'll
Hmm.
give you
Hmm.
a very basic example. So many times, I hear when people are discussing together, like sometimes people say, okay, you know what, I'm not good with perseverance. I'm not someone who is consistent and perseverant on things. And when I get into a discussion with them, I ask them, okay, so why would you need perseverance? So tell me, why are you looking to be more perseverant? And then they say, I can't stick to my diet. I want to stick to my diet, but it looks like I'm not perseverant enough. And then, when you discuss with them, you notice that maybe they have fairness as one of their strengths. And then if you ask them, how fair is it to you and to your health, when you are eating junk, for example. And then they say, oh no, it's not fair at all. And because fairness is one of their strengths, just by thinking and looking at it from a perspective of fairness and seeing that this is not fair to their health, to themselves, to their long-term goals or whatever, this would drive their motivation to continue with their
Hmm.
diet. Now, why am I giving this example? I'm giving this example just to tell you that sometimes we think we need this certain strength for us to achieve a certain goal. But actually, focusing on developing a weakness takes so much effort, takes so much time, and is so demotivating because it doesn't come
Hmm.
naturally. Whereas if I see, okay, what strength can I have that would get me to that goal, maybe in a different way, maybe from a different perspective, maybe from a different angle, then I can achieve the same goal, but in a different way, not the way that my friend achieved it, or my husband, or my colleague, or whatever. I would do it in the way that suits me and suits my strengths and my values. I don't know if that's
Interesting.
making.
Well, you know what? Everybody has a different way of attacking something. So
Mhm,
let's say, you got a project. I like to think one of my strengths are when there's a roadblock, I find a way to get around it and get it done. And it
mhm.
might not be the conventional way of getting it done, but I
Okay,
get it done.
great.
And it's like sometimes, yeah, we figured that out. Okay. Um, Could it be also, let's say that you're not super creative and that's your
Hmm.
weakness, but you're very analytical
Hmm.
and you're a good people person, but the creative thing, not so much. Are you saying that, and maybe you need to be a little creative in your line of work? Are you saying that not don't focus so much on the lack of creativity, focus more on the stuff that you really do well, and then this will kind of find its way over there, or you'll find a way to get the creative part done, maybe call upon somebody else?
Absolutely. This
Hmm.
is what I'm trying to say. And especially when you're in teams, and that's why a leader who is focused on people's strength and who helps their team and their,
Sure.
members and employees know not only their strength, but know each other's strength. They will learn how to support or get something done for the team through the different strengths that they have. So as you said, for example, nobody has everything. So if I'm
Yeah.
creative, usually, okay, it's not a fact, but usually when I'm creative, I'm not very detail oriented, okay, because I tend to focus on the big picture, more strategic stuff. I'm excited about new things. I may forget the details, okay, but there's somebody else who, as you said, might be very analytical, might be very good with details, and then I can use that strength to support me, because if I remain in the cloud, I won't be able to get something practical and achievable on the ground. So I need someone who will see the flaws in that strategic plan, and so that I can make it a better plan. And I also need someone who can implement it, because maybe if me, I like to create stuff, but I don't really like to implement them. So then I need someone who can take this good idea and transform it into practical steps that can be implemented by a team. So all of these, when I know that I'm not good at that, and I'm humbled enough to admit it, but I know where I am good, I focus my energy there, and I allow other people to focus their energy on other parts of the project, so that this project will get done in the most efficient way possible, and everyone will be very happy, because they're all working tailored to their strengths. And that's when productivity is highest, and engagement and happiness are also highest among the team members.
Would you say, Nadine, that a good leader is
Mhm.
somebody that can look at the team and find the strengths and call upon those people to get the tasks done? Like he just, he or she just knows, how to work the system, so to speak, among their employees or their team members, and just knows how to identify and it feels good if somebody picks on you and says, "Hey, can you do that? You're good at that." Is that a good leader?
Absolutely, absolutely. And even if they don't have the strength of mapping people's strengths, if maybe they don't have that as a strength, there are tools out there that can help them. So this
Hmm.
is where the company and the organization has to have a strategic decision or mission, or a vision, where they want to incorporate strength into their organization. So then they would provide tools for the people, for their managers, and also for their leaders, and also for the employees, where these people can take assessments. So there are many assessments out there. There's the VIA character strength, there's a strength finder, the Clifton strengths finder. So there are many assessments out there that people can take, and it will give them an idea about what are their top strengths. So what are the things that they do exceptionally well, and maybe better than others. And so this is the first step. Okay, so when people take
Hmm.
this, and there's a very nice conversation between the leader and their employee, on a one-to-one basis, they can help them better understand this. They can help them remember examples where they use these strengths. And just by putting more focus on that, first of all, for the employee, they will become more aware. Oh yeah, I'm good at these. I shouldn't take them for granted. Not everyone is good. This is something very special. So this boosts the self-esteem and the confidence of that particular person. And at the same time, they will know that, other people, when they share, okay, when the leader gets people to know each other's strengths as well, they will understand that, okay, this person, may not be good at analysis, but they're so good at creativity, or, they're so good at problem solving, or whatever, organizing. So then they will start respecting people more. They will respect the diversity
Hmm.
among people. Nowadays we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion. one way of including people and having an inclusive culture is to get people to understand the good diversity and focus on the good diversity, not the things that get us into trouble where I think something using. No, let's look at the good things that are in diversity and how we can utilize these to create better productivity, better efficiencies, and get the job done in a much better way than I can do by myself.
I know that you work with leaders on a lot of these principles and help them figure them out. If it's just an individual that wants to build upon their strengths, is that something you do too?
Yeah, sure. Very, very frankly, every time I work with someone, whether individually or whether with a team, the first thing I do is I have them take one of the strengths assessments, because it helps us, both me and them, better understand, map their strength, and really get to know each other, and me get to know them in a much faster way. So, I always do that. That's the first step. I do that assessment. And this way people know. And I cannot tell you, even leaders, okay, very high up in the organizations, I cannot tell you how happy they are to see, this list where everything is strength. You don't have any weaknesses there on the paper, on the sheet, on the report. It's all full of strength. And they're like, so, there's no weaknesses here. These are all strength. And I say, yeah. And then they start looking at the ones at the bottom, because, the report gives you the strength in order of hierarchy. So where you're strongest and then where you're less strong. So they start looking there. How can I develop this? I cannot tell you how common this is, where
Wow.
people go to the lowest strength and they start thinking, how can I develop that? It's so much entrenched in us that unconsciously we go look for those areas where we're weak and we want to focus on them.
It's a shame because you're forgetting all the things at the top that you could make even better to more support you. And again, like we said before, I think there's a reason for everything, so that the call them the weaknesses will come along and they'll even get more powerful once this stuff up here is. I own a marketing company. I can't imagine talking to any of our team and say, yeah, you really do a great job at this, but you're not that great at that. It couldn't even come out of my mouth. How do I get around that? If there's a certain, let's call it weakness, I go around it.
Okay.
Or I help them with it, or I give it to somebody else, or I'll do it. Don't like to do that. It got to delegate, or find a way that they can work through it to get the results. But just, pointing that out to people, it's such a negative. We're just all wired to be negative from birth, I think.
Yeah, I mean, because we like to develop and because we like to grow, and classically we thought that it's very important for us to look at the areas that we're weak. And I say again, of course, I need to know the areas that I'm not too good at, because knowing that will also allow me to know which tasks I will take and which tasks I won't. So I will take the tasks that are aligned with my strengths, so that I can perform better, of course. But at the same time, I don't need to think that I need to develop all these weaknesses. I'm in a team, and there are people who have these as strengths. Why not utilize other people's strengths to achieve our goals as a team, rather than just think of myself and doing things on my own?
When we talk about the weaknesses, are there some that aren't really weaknesses? They're just things we don't like doing, but they may show up as a weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, let's say reports. Okay, so many of us have to write reports, as part of their jobs. Okay.
Yeah, and that's my weakness.
Yeah, and me too. And like, I hate that. Okay,
and proposals. Just,
exactly.
I know it needs to get done. And lately I've sent a couple of emails. Hey, I can put this in a full report, but I know that you're in a rush to get this done. So I'm putting it in a very detailed email. If you want to see a flashy, great looking report, I can do it. It's going to take more time. I don't even know if it's needed, but anyway, yeah, those are the things that we don't like doing.
Yeah. But we can't get rid of them. I mean, it's not always that I can just do the things I like to do. There are parts of our job. There's always parts of our job that we don't like doing, and maybe we're not super great at. But as long as we can develop ourselves to the minimum level that is acceptable, then that's fine. Okay. And as long as within your job, you have like 60 to 70% of your time spent on things that you love to do, then that's fine.
Right.
Okay. That's fine. Again, if I do know someone in my team who's great at proposals and, they can do a better job, I can also reach out to them and they can support me. But as I said, we have to be realistic. I mean, always part of our job, we will have, 30 to 40% of our job, things that we don't love to do and maybe we're not great at. But again, we don't have to be great at them. We can be the minimum level that is required to present something that is professional and good. And then we can put our focus on giving value in the other things that we do very well.
Do you find that those things that we might think that we're not great at, we have to put more effort in to get to the point where they're good? They're real good. I don't know if they'd be great, but do you find a lot of people do that?
Yeah,
It's more
absolutely.
work. Like it's more work.
It's more work because it's not your area of strength. So your area of strength is something that comes naturally to you with no effort, with no focus. Okay, you don't even have to focus on it. It just comes off because it's an area that you were probably talented in since you were a little girl or a little boy, and then you worked on it. So you kept on practicing that. So it became better and better. And it's so automatic. So, and it's lovely, it's engaging and you like doing it. So that's why, whereas the area where you've not been developed at, it's something that you need to put a lot of focus on. And a lot of times it's not going to work. So again, it's going to be a bit demotivating because things are not going to go the way you want them to go. But of course, if you have good expectations, you have reasonable expectations, and you know that you are great at other things, then you can push yourself to keep on trying until you have that minimum level of requirement that you need to just do the job in a proper way or in a good way, good enough way.
You've said a word I haven't heard in a long time, but it resonates, I think, with a lot of us, demotivating. Yeah, there are things that you're not motivated at, whether you're good at them or it's just one of those things you have to do. Totally understandable. Tell us about the process, Nadine, when you work with somebody either on the leadership side or somebody that works with others in a team to build on their strengths. How does it all work?
Now, the first step is always, as I said, to run an assessment to everyone in the team so that everyone will get an objective report about their own strengths. And it's nice when people use the same assessment because you create a very nice language, common language of strength. So people start asking, what did you get? What did I get? Or, and then there's a nice discussion among the team. And then, so people, first of all, need to know their own strengths. They need to recognize them and notice how they use them on a daily basis. Second, they need to know other people's strength and also complement them on their strength and focus on them as well. So utilize those strengths. The leader needs to know everyone's strengths. And when they are allocating tasks, when they are creating objectives, they need to take those strengths into consideration. As I said, you won't be using, your strengths 100% of the time in the job, but for a certain, at least more than 50% of the time, you're going to be doing something that you're good at and that you love to do so that there is proper engagement. So these three are the first steps that we take. Now, surely this has to be supported by the organization. So if it's a middle manager coming to me to work with their team, I can only do a limited amount of work. So with this team, but if the organization as a whole adopts this concept, then as a whole, everything will change. So they would look at any initiative that they do, and they need to make sure that this initiative is aligned with people's strengths. So they cannot say, okay, let's focus on people's strength and keep their performance plan focused on weaknesses, where, they have a performance review every year, and then they say, okay, you're bad at these need to be development. But that's it's contradicting the concept of having a strength-based discussion and having a strength-based culture. So everything they do in the organization needs to be aligned with this focus on strengths. And it's important that everyone adopts it. The CEO needs to, use this language the language of strength, his own strength, maybe sharing it with, sharing his strength with other people, etc. So this jargon needs to be going on all around, and every initiative taken they always need to think, okay, is this aligned with this objective? Next, also the managers and the leaders need to be coached on how they coach people to bring up their strength and focus on their strength. Because again, as we said, leaders are just human beings, and they're like us. Like we were used to looking at weaknesses, they probably are also engineered to look at weaknesses. So they need to be trained to become the coaches of their people on strength and focusing on strength. So that's also very important. So the leaders need to be coaches. You cannot have a strength-based culture if the leaders are not really adopting the role of coaches inside their organization. And maybe you can have a few champions of this whole thing. So these are the champions for a strength-based culture. So they keep an eye on what's going on in the company. They make sure everything is aligned with strengths, how they're using these strengths, what are they doing, etc. So if you have a few officers that are taking care of that, that also will enhance the focus on strength in any organization.
Yeah, we forget that there's a lot more going on here, where you could work with that leader and identify a lot of their strengths. But if they're not coaching or speaking to their team members the right way, it's for naught. It's just, It's not going to work. It has to be, very synergetic between all of it. What's your website, Nadine?
www.Nadine Zeinoun, which is NADINE ZEINOUN.com.
Your strength is doing what you're doing right now. It really is.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I love it.
Your energy, and that comes through. Your energy and your passion comes through.
Thank you.
And you're hyper-focused on changing the culture of a company for the better. And it's right there. Yeah. Learned a lot today. Always great talking with you, and look forward next time we get a chance to get together.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.